Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's the 16th of April. It was Robert Frost who said, "The sun was warm, but the wind was chill." You know how it is with an April day. April can be a challenging time in the garden. How many truly lovely Aprils does one get in a lifetime? I'd venture to say maybe 5 or 6. Often the gardens are too wet to get into, provided you can even get into them. Even with the rain, the snow hasn't completely melted away on our yard. It's too cold to turn the spigots on, so you'll have the thrill of trooping through the residue of a long winter. Grit and grime, salt and mush. Until it dries up, there's really no sense in going out. Content yourself with planting or growing seeds indoors. Unless you're having a once-in-a-decade kind of April, then pinch yourself and get going. Here's today's brevities. We've got a big birthday today. Sir Hans Sloane, born today in 1660. He was an Irish physician, naturalist, and collector. He bequeathed his collection of 71,000 items. And with all of that stuff, he established the British Museum, the British Library, and the National History Museum in London. Now, how did his collection get so large? Well, first he lived into his 90s, and he outlived many of his collecting friends. Second, when his friends passed away, they gave Hans Sloane their herbariums and all their other materials. He was a one-man repository for horticultural knowledge. And here's a fun fact. Sloane is credited with adding milk to cacao to make drinking chocolate. Thank you, Hans Sloane. There are many botanical birthdays today. Perhaps Hans Sloane has blessed this day. It's the birthday of botanist William Stearn, born in 1911. He's the author of Botanical Latin, as well as the Dictionary of Plant Names for Gardeners, a popular guide to the Latin names of plants. He was mainly self-educated, probably a byproduct of being a librarian for the Royal Horticultural Society in London for almost 20 years. Holy cats. Highly esteemed, he is the expert on over 400 plants that he named and described. American botanical illustrator Ellen Nellie Thayer Fisher was born today in 1847. The daughter of a doctor, she learned her craft from her brother Abbott. To make a living, she painted pictures for exhibition, but she also gave lessons by letter to aspiring artists. Mary Gibson Henry died today. She was born to be a plantswoman. Her family roots in horticulture went way back. Her great-grandfather, George Pepper, was a member of the first council of the Pennsylvania Horticulture Society. She became an avid botanist and plant collector and also served as president of the American Horticultural Society. I bet great-grandpa Pepper loved that. The daylily Henryi is named in her honor. In 1909, she married Dr. John Norman Henry. She had a big backyard garden, lots of greenhouses, a splendid kitchen garden, native rock plants, and orchards. Starting in 1929, she went on biannual plant collecting trips. On her first trip, she brought the family, 4 kids and her hubby in tow. Not sure if she continued doing that, but over the next 40 years, she went on over 200 botanical expeditions. And with all that experience, she figured out that plant collecting wasn't for sissies, saying, "I soon learned that rare and beautiful plants can only be found in the places that are difficult to access. Often one has to shove oneself through or wriggle under briars with awkward results to clothing and many and deep cuts and scratches, wading usually bare-legged through countless rattlesnake-infested swamps adds immensely to the interest of the day's work." which is why I'll never be a plant hunter. On this day in April, Mary died in North Carolina doing what she loved to do, collecting plants. Born on this day in 1886, Sir Edward Salisbury. He was the youngest of 9 children. His passion for plants started as a kid. On outings, he would go collect flowers to grow in his own garden patch at home. And get this, he attached a label to each one, giving it its Latin name. His brothers called his garden the graveyard. Typical brothers. One of the leading British botanists of the 20th century, he was the director of Kew during the Second World War. He was not simply an expert on plants themselves. He was supremely interested in their natural habitat. He wrote many books. My favorite of all of his books is Weeds and Aliens. In this book, he goes for a walk in the countryside and discovers when he gets home that the cuffs of his wool trousers were full of seeds. He decides to try to grow them, and he's astounded when he's able to grow more than 300 plants, comprising over 20 different species of weeds. And it was Sir Edward Salisbury who said, "The double lily was and is a crime against God and man." Despite that, he lived to be 92. Aphra Behn, the first professional female writer, was buried today in 1689. Virginia Woolf said, "All women together ought to let flowers fall upon the tomb of Aphra Behn, for it was she who earned them the right to speak their minds." Aphra Behn wrote, "That perfect tranquility of life, which is nowhere to be found but in retreat, a faithful friend, and a good library." Today's book recommendation is by Penny Coleman. It's called Adventurous Women, 8 True Stories About Women Who Made a Difference. And there's a profile in the book of Mary Gibson Henry. Today's garden chore is to get ready to direct sow. Gather up your radish, turnip, and parsnip seeds. It's time to start planting. Here's today's sweet story. Emily Dickinson's brother, William Austin Dickinson, was born today. Of him, Emily would say, "There was always such a hurrah wherever you was." William was the oldest of the 3 Dickinson kids. He was about 18 months older than his sister Emily. He tried his hand at teaching, but ended up becoming a lawyer, following in the footsteps of his father and grandfather. When they were young, Emily was very close to her brother. Her letters to him when he was away show their common interests and her love for him. She wrote, "Our apples are ripening fast. I am fully convinced that with your approbation, they will not only pick themselves, but arrange one another in baskets and present themselves to be eaten." Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org. And be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And while you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for The Daily Gardener Community on Facebook and request to join. And finally, a special thank you to my team at Podfly Productions, where my editor is Eric Begay.